first to Artem Golikov to make an introduction of the chamber, please.
Right. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invitation. I'm very glad to represent the Chamber of Commerce, and I will first tell you about the functions of our chamber, and then I will also elaborate on the current state of economic affairs and economic ties between Belgium and Russia. So let us proceed to the next slide. Here's the session plan. I hope to take 10 minutes of your time, and your questions are welcomed after the presentation. And just as I've mentioned, I will tell you the core functions, the representatives and members of the chamber for you to see the scope and the scale of cooperation that exists between Russia, Belgium, and other Luxembourg and Netherlands firms. And also I will elaborate a little bit on how the Trade Chamber has been operating in the wake and in the process of pandemic, throughout the pandemic. Yeah, just a few words about myself. I'm a student of Higher School of Economics. This is one of the Russian universities, national research universities. I also happen to be a student in the University of London, and I study international relations. I've previously worked at International Bank, HSBC, I think you're quite aware of it. And I also had the chance to work for the Ministry for Economic Development in Russia at Trade Negotiations Department. And for the past half of the year, I've been working in Belgian-Luxembourg Chamber of Commerce. Mostly my work as of a member, as of a representative, occupies preparing the newsletter issues, assisting the organization of business missions. And the Trade Chamber is actually very famous for the business missions that are organized to various Russian regions, such as Tula, Kurgan, or Penza. Apart from that, the Chamber of Commerce organizes a lot of CEO business breakfasts. These are sort of the events where the CEO of the companies or top representatives are capable of meeting Russian authorities, the deputy ministers. There was recently in October a meeting with the representative from the Ministry for Trade and Industry. And also we participate in various online conferences to provide insights on Russian economic state of affairs. I also managed to publish an article in the Diplomatic World magazine. And if you have by chance encountered it before or you don't know what it is, here's the QR code. You can check it out. And also, I guess maybe we'll be able to share the presentation after the report, that you have a glance at it again. So here are just some of the photos of what we do, some of the meetings that we carry out on weekly, monthly basis, and some of the photos from the business mission. This is a very peculiar business mission that we had to Tula region. We visited the automotive factory facility in the special economic zone. And this is what we do on a regular basis in various regions for Belgian businesses to see the opportunities for development in Russia, in various Russian regions. And this is a reciprocal bilateral kind of procedure. There are also a lot of efforts done in the Belgian Chamber of Russia. A lot of actions are happening at this level. Here are some of the key representatives and members of the chamber. Some of the core Russian companies such as Severstal and Rusvinil, which are participating a lot in specific production, and also a lot of juridical law firms, Romanov and Partners, and a lot of Belgian businesses that are exporting a lot throughout the world, all over the world. Belgium is famous for its chocolate, so actually some of the Belgian chocolate is also can be found in Russia, and the Chamber of Commerce assisted in it for these companies to enter Russian market, and also many other companies, including banking sphere. You can see SWIFT, Gazprombank, and other companies. Here are some of the vice presidents, CEOs, and presidents of the Trade Chamber, of the Chamber of Commerce. They are all people who are to some extent related to business, and all of them know how to foster the economic relations between the two countries. That's what they have been doing for the past 10 years. And actually, just for you to understand how does the relationship between the two countries through the Chamber of Commerce function, here are some of the competences that are provided by the Chamber. It includes any kind of legal assistance and assistance on obtaining visas, sometimes also legal advice and accreditation of foreign representative offices. So throughout the pandemic, the Chamber of Commerce had to adapt a lot to the conditions in which it had to operate. For this reason, the online web lounges were introduced, and they were conducted on a regular basis, people to connect and to understand the development opportunities, the crisis resolution opportunities. For instance, Chris Weaver, the person who's the CEO for Macro Advisory Ltd, was invited not much time ago to speak and to present on the state of Russian economy. Also, if you want to have some more insights on what Russian economic state currently is, you can also scan the QR code and go to the YouTube and watch the video there, where Chris presented all of his information that he has. Moving on, let me tell you about other competences during the pandemic. Actually, some of the events are still conducted not only on the online basis, but also in offline, in the analog world, because Russia is smoothly recovering from the pandemic. And for instance, in April 2021, a Trans-Russia will be held. This is the special event for logistical companies and supply chain companies to exchange their technologies and cooperate together. And a lot of Belgian companies are planning to attend. For instance, I'll be representing Camco, the company that is exporting special technologies solutions for the logistics industry. And speaking of the Russian-Belgian economic ties, despite the weakening of the conjuncture in the last several years, Belgian and Luxembourg business retained faith in the Russian market. And there are quite a lot of proofs to that. The proof of this is the opening of new offices. For instance, in January, Ehlers, it is one of the major Belgian logistic firms, opened its office, a major office in St. Petersburg. Also, the acquisitions and construction of new production lines continue. Once again, on all of the business missions that are conducted, a lot of special agreements are concluded, not only between the Chamber of Commerce and the administration of the region, but also on the B2B basis, business to business basis, as you wish. And you see, the virus should be thought by the preservation of economic ties and communications. This is the belief held by the Chamber of Commerce and by its CEO, Oleg Prozorov. And also in November 2020, BLCC Russia with other chambers asked Russian government to resume international flights. And it has been successful. A lot of international flights started to be resumed just for the business people on both sides in Russia, in Europe, to return safely either to their place of work or to their place of living, so to their home. And I guess this is just one of the instances, the realities that the Chamber of Commerce is a lobbying organization who has the authority of its members and the trust entailed to it to promote certain decisions on in relation to the government. So yeah, here are some of the pictures of the opening ceremony of the office from January. Let me further speak on the current state of Russian economy. So generally, in 2020, there has been some difficulties faced by the Russian economy, just like everywhere. And along with the hospitality sector, industries with a high share of important components probably suffered the most. The collapse of the European borders, weeks of delays due to the restrictions imposed by the first wave of the pandemic, as well as the fall of the ruble, caused an increase in the import prices. Now, this may seem negative, but still many foreign companies are now considering the localization of the production for the components, for their components in close proximity to the market. And this is how actually Russian businesses and Belgian businesses can benefit by merging their efforts and continuing the construction of facilities. The global income deficit of international corporations in Russia was compensated by the income of their Russian divisions. Now, this is a very serious conclusion because with a rather declining prices for exports and imports, some of the companies managed to gain profits in the wake of the pandemic. So for some companies, and for some Belgian companies specifically, it is still very beneficial to maintain Russian departments, and they do so. Also, the production lines of the members of the Chamber of Commerce did not stop a single day in 2020. Each plant independently applied and prescribed sanitary measures, and everything went as smoothly as it could be, which represents the high degree of cooperation and contact which exists between all departments to clarify all the necessary questions and solve the problems in a quick form. Some of the areas of the economy benefited a lot by the COVID-19 pandemic, such as those in the field of medicine, the pharmaceutical cluster, companies offering services in the field of telecommunications, IT services especially. There are quite a lot of such companies in Belgium, as Belgium has a lot of industry facilities and a lot of high-tech companies. So for them, it is still beneficial to remain in Russia, and Russia places its faith in the services and products of Belgian companies. The Chamber is signing a lot of memoranda for cooperation with several Russian regions to allow the support of its members. Also, the recent prioritization of the well-being of improvement and as well as the protection trend for our planet made BLCC Russia established the Expert Council on Sustainable Development and Green Finance. Both Russia and Benelux countries are capable of offering world-class technologies in the field of environmental protection. And now efforts are also joined together to make this happen. Russia is on the forefront of developing the hydrogen technology and related projects, while Belgian businesses master the expert of other green technology. And in different regions, Russian, Belgian, and Luxembourgish companies open new factories, distribution, logistics, and research centers on a regular basis. Another initiative that might seem important to you and interesting is the common economic space from Lisbon to Vladivostok, which the Chamber of Commerce joined recently to develop a project of green corridor between Russia and Europe. So I guess it can be inferred that the green sector and the sector of high-tech, environmentally friendly technology and sustainable development is on the rise, and these sectors are gaining a lot of impetus and attention on both sides in Belgium and in Russia, which is of course a very positive trend. And once again, the motto of our Belgian-Luxembourg Chamber of Commerce in Russia is to act and succeed together. This motto has been in every action that the Chamber concluded, and we believe that there is indeed a lot of potential spheres for cooperation between the countries, between Belgium, Luxembourg, Netherlands, and Russia. Once again, let me thank you for your attention. Now your questions are welcomed, so please be sure to ask them if you want to clarify anything. I'll be very glad to answer.
Yeah, thank you so much for the presentation. It's really very interesting. And while our participants are preparing questions, I would like actually to address one. Do you maybe deal somehow or with the Chinese affairs? And if you could comment, what is the difference between Russia and Belgium towards international cooperation with China, who is a very big partner, I would say.
Okay, yeah, Lucan, thank you for your question. It's very interesting. I would say that first of all, the Chamber of Commerce operates not only in Russia, it also operates in many Eurasian countries because Moscow is the capital for this region, and so the many interests, economic interests and contacts, they overlap there. This is how we have some of the communication also with the regions of East, Middle East, and some of the post-Soviet countries, where the interests of China are also growing and being present. Speaking of the type of communication, you see, I guess it is just as important to highlight the fact that the initiative of this Chambers of Commerce in the countries of Belgium and Luxembourg, they've existed for 100 years. This year is actually the anniversary since the first Chambers of Commerce were created for both countries, for Luxembourg and for Belgium, as an entity, as a unity. And there is a certain faith that is placed in Belgium and in Luxembourg as partners, as strategic partners, because they can provide a lot of specific technical solutions, high-tech solutions, and this is why Russia maintains its interests in cooperation with these countries. Speaking and comparing it with China, I believe that China is also now capable of presenting such solutions, but you see, it is just impossible to neglect Europe as a market, both for Russian companies, and it's just as impossible to neglect Russia as a potential market for European companies. This is why the potential for cooperation will never cease. It's just, I guess it's sort of irrelevant to compare it with China in this sense, because there are a lot of historical contacts that exist between the countries. And yeah, I guess that's that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. And we have questions from the participants. Julien, please, the floor is yours.
Yeah, well, I guess Julien may struggle to put the microphone on. I will still read the question for everybody and answer it. I'll address it. Right, so the question which Julien raised is about, so what is it? Do geopolitical considerations impact our daily work? Well, Julien, thank you very much indeed for your question. It's a great question. You see, the Chamber of Commerce as a not-for-profit organization, it operates abstaining from politics and abstaining from religion. Really, our goals, they simply are reserved to the area of economic ties and economic contacts. This is why geopolitical considerations, they are not really affecting our work. And this can be proven once again by, I believe, by the historical evidence. You see, since 2014, of course, there was a slight decrease of cooperation between between Belgium and Russia, also Luxembourg and Russia, but it has steadily recovered since then. And now, even throughout the pandemic, we're seeing a lot of contacts, a lot of new facilities being opened, which I believe proves the fact that the geopolitical considerations, in this sense, they're of a second place. Of the first is the economic benefits for both countries, for companies on both sides. And of course, it is also the provision of the right technology in the right place. I've spoken, you see, there is a rise and there is an increasing need for green technology in many countries. And in this sense, all countries are cooperating very well without any considerations and concerns. All right. Lucian, are you here?
Yeah. Yes,
yeah.
Yes. And then there was a question from Augustine.
Right.
Yes, thank you. First, thank you very much for your presentation.
You.
Yeah, my question was about that Lisbon to Vladivostok initiative. Well, that seems quite interesting. I've had 5 minutes time to check the website.
Okay.
Have you seen over the last few years an interest over the European part and the Russian part on developing infrastructure projects? So to connect Russia to Europe in terms of roads, in terms of modernization of train lines, because this could have great political consequences for understanding and diplomacy, obviously. So my question was about this infrastructure projects between Russia and Europe.
Okay. Augustine, it's a very, very nice question. I believe that the potential kind of problems that might be encountered in terms of constructing the infrastructure, developing the roads, and any kind of connections that have not existed prior to the current state, 2021, is actually the fact that Russia is separated by the European Union through several countries. There are many countries that are kind of sort of separating Russia from the EU, and in this sense, it requires a lot of effort and cooperation to negotiate such infrastructure projects. But you see, once again, Europe has had historical ties with Russia for centuries. The roads have existed and have been constructed many years before now, and so there is really not a lot of need to construct the highways that might help. There is just the need to establish the correct regime where the goods and services between the countries may flow smoother. You see, when there is some legal relaxations, when there are some of the legal restrictions that are lifted in terms of trade between the countries, between Belgium and Russia, for instance, or between the EU countries from Lisbon to Russia and Vladivostok, when they are lifted, this might actually help. And in this sense, there are a lot of forums that are conducted on both sides to assist that, but still there has not been any major acts that have been signed so far. But I believe there is a lot of room for development in this sense, and well, sometime it will happen. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. And then there was a question from Ronald.
Okay.
Hello.
Yeah, hello.
Oh, excuse me. So I was thinking on I'm Ronald Terrazas. I am doing my postdoc in biotechnology. I am living in Poland. I am from Bolivia. So I would like to know, like, this has been this idea about redundant supply chains that will be established in the future due to this pandemic has been a common trend. So not to depend so much in China. So I was thinking that could Russia take advantage of that, or the sanctions or regulations could prevent that? Because for me, that there are only 3 alternatives for Europe. It's the Middle East, it's Russia, or Africa. I don't know what would be your take on that. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I've actually, speaking of my take, I've noted that now many companies are considering the localization of their production forces, and also the localization, sort of the sourcing of their all of their products for their supply chains on a local level. This is one of the ways to avoid the problem that you have mentioned of declining the dependency from China. And it is indeed urgent in the sense of after the pandemic. I believe it is indeed urgent. I believe that there is indeed a lot of possibilities for that, for Russia to become the sort of localization market for the supply chains. But it is going to take a lot of time for us to see actually whether it's going to happen or not. Now, as I've just mentioned in the presentation, in the report, now a lot of European companies are actually looking for the space, for the sweet spot for their production facilities to be built in many Russian regions, not only, for example, in Moscow region, in the Moscow Oblast, which is sort of the logistical center for Russia, but also outside in St. Petersburg, which is another logistical center for Russia, and in the outside of these two regions. So yeah, there is a lot of potential for what you've said, for Russia to become such a place and for it to take an advantage. But I believe that only the time will show actually how this diversification happens. All right, thank you for your question again, Walt. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you very much for the answer. And please, Bruno, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone again. My name is Bruno Rukarina. I'm from Zagreb, Croatia. I'm Master of Political Science, and I now work as independent consultant and advisor. I have two questions, actually. First one is, what are the main future economic fields of cooperation between Europe, let's say Benelux and Russia? So let's say in long-term strategic goals, 10, 20 years. And second one is, what is the level of lobbying in European institutions, European Union institutions, and Benelux national institutions from Russian companies? So which types of companies lobby the most from Russia there? Thank you very much.
Bruno, yeah, thank you for your question. I will address the first part of it and then come to the second part. So speaking of the future economic fields of cooperation, there are definitely green finance and sustainable development. These are kind of the core areas for development. And in this sense, Luxembourg, for example, and Belgium as well, can help a lot to the Russian companies in terms of funding. There is a lot of financial assistance for the Russian businesses to open new facilities, both in Russia and outside of it. And of course, the technology that is provided by the Belgian industrial firms and the Luxembourgish firms, it is incredibly beneficial and valuable for the Russian firms. Once again, as I've mentioned in the presentation, Russia is continuing to export a lot its energy sources. This is most importantly gas, and I guess we have to highlight once again and say that gas is indeed more or less environmentally friendly compared to coal or any other, also oil that is being burned. And Russia is actively developing the hydrogen power carriers that would be very effective in the future. But of course, it takes a lot of time to develop the sufficient technology. So yeah, these are the main sort of spheres for cooperation: finance, environmentally friendly finance, green finance, and the technology, the spread of technology. Russia also with the European businesses, especially in the energy level of lobbying. You see, the level of lobbying is not as great as it can be. There are chambers of commerce that propagate Russian interests in the countries of the European Union. This is the only sphere to do so. And for the past couple of years, this is the sphere in which the Chamber of Commerce of Belgium and Luxembourg in Russia has also been participating actively. Russian businesses have been trying to emphasize on the liberalization of the visa regime that exists between the countries of Europe and Russia is not as fruitful for the economic activity as it can be. There are a lot of difficulties for the CEOs or technicians to enter both countries if the need to do so exists. And it has particularly exacerbated with the coronavirus pandemic. So there has been a lot of opportunities for the technicians to enter Russia and also for Russian technical specialists to enter Europe if there is the need to do so. And there has been a lot of communication between the departments of Russian authorities and European authorities to issue visas, basically. But still, there's very little effort been made for the CEOs and top representatives of businesses on both sides made to issue visas. For example, there is this sort of statement that top authorities, the vice presidents, since they are not technical specialists, there is no need for them to enter the countries even throughout the pandemic if the need to do so exists. In fact, this is still very important and urgent as many offices are being opened and the CEOs and the vice presidents, they need to visit those facilities. So yeah, actually Russian businesses has been propagating a lot the relaxation of the visa regime.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Artem. And now, actually, just because we are a bit limited in time, I would like to give the floor to our big friend Maria Pushkova, who will also tell about the Benelux Center that works for the Russian State University for Humanities. And then, if we have time, we will come back also to the chamber.